Joining us now to discuss is Steve Baker, an investigative reporter for The Blaze. He was the journalist infamously cuffed and perp-walked on March 1st by the feds in connection with his reporting about January 6th, all because he was there in person and witnessed many events firsthand. But the regime can't have that, can it? It needs to keep up the illusion that January 6th was worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. And so they'll make up invisible crimes just to shut up those who expose them. Steve, thanks for being back again tonight.
Hey, thanks, Kara, for having me.
Great. So given everything you've experienced this past month, do we need to cut down the national security state anywhere we can, including with FISA Section 702 and so much else?
Well, we need to decapitate all of the federal agencies at this point, particularly the three-letter law enforcement agencies. They are totally corrupt at this point. They have been politically manipulated. They have been replaced. You talk about the great replacement theory. Well, it's already happened. I mean, the march through the institutions has already taken place, and it has been very successful with regards to FBI, DOJ, ATF, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into your case in just a moment. And feel free, whenever I ask you a question, if it's something you just legally can't say, just tell me, because I don't want to put any more on your shoulders, because I know it's such a difficult place to be in when the national security state has you in its targets. But before I get to that, I just want to ask you one last question on this Section 702, since that is what's going on right now in Congress. But do you think Republicans ever will have the actual teeth or anything to actually take on the national security state, like you said, to decapitate, to, go after it? Because it seems that every time there's spending bills, they just give the FBI, the CIA, and all the rest whatever they want. So do you think they're ever going to have that fighting spirit to truly tackle the national security state, aside from vagaries about reform? Or do you think that, we might have to wait for a better crop?
The better question is, why do they cave every time? Why is it that every single time there's a close vote, or, well, it doesn't even get close. I mean, we see over and over again 100 Republicans reporting or voting for these particular bills, and it's not close at all. We have to ask, why is that? When every single one of them, without exception, will campaign on those ideas of reducing the policing power of the state, reducing these types of overreaching laws, documents, whether it's FISA, whether it's the Patriot Act, whatever it is. They campaign on that, but then they don't do it. And the question is, why? That's the thing that has got me most intrigued right now, and has actually led me into some of the work that I've been doing recently on looking at who is holding their hands behind their back and saying to them, you can't vote for this.
No, that is definitely really interesting. There's a lot of power players in D.C. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of influence peddling. So, obviously it has to do with that, like you're saying, but to know exactly in detail why, I think that's a great thing to look into. But that's also what they don't want you looking into, right? Same thing when we had you on the show probably about 2-ish or so months ago, and you were exposing on just one part of all the January 6th lies about Pelosi's Praetorian Guard, basically, and all the lies on one guy says he was here, but surveillance video shows he wasn't, and yet that goes to court, and it hurts a lot of J6 protesters, and on it goes. And then we saw just about a month ago, of course, they tried to humiliate you. They did the perp walk. They did all of this. So I know a lot of viewers watching right now may be up to speed a little bit on what's been happening to you, but for those of you who For those in the audience who aren't as up to speed on what's been going on, can you explain to the audience what the feds are so mad about, what this video that we're seeing on the screen right now, what that was all about, just perhaps kind of lay out some of the context for us?
Well, the humiliating perp walk that you're looking at right there didn't end there. When I got to the federal courthouse there in Dallas, these two FBI agents you see here putting me in the back of the car had me cuffed behind my back, but then they took me and handed me over to the U.S. Marshals at the courthouse, where they then proceeded to put me in leg irons and a belt chain with my wrist cuffed to my stomach. And then they put me in a cell with an actual meth dealer. And then they marched me in front of the magistrate in the leg chains to answer for the 4 misdemeanor charges. And by the way, the 4 nonviolent misdemeanor charges that all of the low-level January 6th defendants get hit with.